The Shenyang J-15 Flying Shark is a carrier-based multi-role fighter in service with China's People's Liberation Army Navy, developed as a reverse-engineered version of the Russian Su-33. After failed attempts to acquire the Su-33 from Russia, China used a prototype obtained from Ukraine to build the J-15. First flown in 2009 and tested on an aircraft carrier in 2012. The J-15 was originally powered by Russian engines but later equipped with the Chinese-made WS-10B. While Chinese claims of the J-15's superiority to U.S. fighters like the F/A-18 Super Hornet are debated, the aircraft represents China's growing military capabilities and ambitions in the Indo-Pacific region. Known as the Flying Shark, the Shenyang J-15 is a carrier-based multi-role fighter currently in service with the People's Liberation Army Navy. The J-15, of which 60 have been built, is further indication of China's commitment to expanding its naval capabilities as she continues to assert herself more forcefully throughout the Indo-Pacific. China spent years working to procure a carrier-based fighter from the Russians, the Sukhoi Su-33. The bid failed, as Moscow tells the story. When Russia learned that China had ripped off the blueprints of another Russian jet, the Sukhoi Su-27SK, to create a Chinese derivative. The Su-27SK derivative was known as the J-11B and incited Russia, who claimed that China had violated intellectual property agreements between the two nations. China tells a different story, however. According to China, the Su-33 procurement attempt failed when Russia demanded a minimum order of 50 Su-33s. With a payment sufficient to cover the high cost of reopening the Su-33's defunct production lines. She said, whatever happened, the Chinese moved on from their attempts to buy the Su-33. And instead, they did what they often do, relied on reverse engineering. To reverse engineer the Su-33, the Chinese relied upon an Su-33 prototype that had been procured from Ukraine. The result was the J-15, whose prototype debuted in 2009, and made its first ski jump takeoff in 2010. Granted, the ski jump wasn't on a carrier, but rather had been constructed on land, where the stakes were lower and the margins for error higher. But still, the test served as a proof of concept. The J-15 was tested from an actual aircraft carrier in 2012. During a deployment from the Liaoning. In addition to the ski jump takeoffs, the J-15 was outfitted to perform catapult launches, too. As such, the J-15 is built strong to withstand the structural stress of carrier takeoffs and landings. Still, the J-15's airframe was built predominantly from composite materials for the purpose of saving weight and improving performance. Originally, the J-15 had been built with a Russian Saturn Alabama 31 turbofan engine. But in 2022, the J-15 appeared with a Chinese-made WS-10B engine. According to the Chinese, their homegrown engine was better than the Russian Saturn, offering improved safety, reliability, and service life. The J-15 does perform admirably, while Chinese assessments that the J-15 exceeds the aerodynamic capabilities of virtually any fighter aircraft currently operated by regional militaries, except for the US F-22 Raptor, may be overblown. The J-15 does have a 10% greater thrust-to-weight ratio, and 25% better wing loading than the closest American equivalent, the F/A-18 Super Hornet. And the Chinese have not been shy about claiming that the J-15 is a superior aircraft to the Super Hornet, at least with respect to bomb load, combat radius, and mobility, if not with respect to electronic and combat systems. Either way, the J-15 is an indication of China's budding military ambitions.